All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Horror. There is no shortage of monsters to haunt our dreams. Horror.
You got red on you.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Horror.
Alive! It's alive!
Groovy.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Oh the Horror. I'm Rob Holmes, and I'm joined once again by Kelly Vigilante. Hey Kelly, how you doing?
Great, I'm excited to do this. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being back. So if everyone didn't know, on our last episode, we covered an amazing little gem from 1986 called Nightmare Weekend. During this episode, we found that there was a movie in 1990 that was filmed in Virginia Beach called Night Killer. Now, we are from the Hampton Roads area. I grew up in Virginia Beach. I don't know if you did, Kelly.
I did as well.
Well, awesome. So this movie, we didn't really know anything about it, and then we found out it was directed by Claudio Fragasso, who is the director of Troll 2. And I think we all, or most of us, know Troll 2 as being the best, worst movie of all time that doesn't have trolls in it. Because Nilbog, spoiler guys, is goblin spelt backwards. Oh man. So you can see we're in for a treat right off the bat, knowing that this is done from the brilliant minds that brought you Troll 2. Kelly, what did you think of this movie?
I have mixed emotions about it because the first half, I was on board. There were amazing one-liners and just silly situations with guns and suicide and all that kind of stuff. I know that sounds awful, but if when we talk about it, you'll get it. But then the second half veered into some weird territory for me. So although it was still absurd, it especially as a woman, I had to pause for a moment.
Yeah, it gets, there are doctors in this film who have no idea what the hell they're talking about, and you can tell that it's written from a misogynistic filmmaker's perspective who has no idea what the hell a doctor or a psychologist would actually do in this type of situation. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's wrong in so many ways, but that opening scene is right in every single way.
Now, it's been about a week since I watched it, so please refresh my memory. Which scene are you referring to?
We open up into a theater scene. They're dancing right away. And people are doing what I consider to be probably the worst dance scene ever. They're out of rhythm. They're not doing well with that. We get this girl who is, I guess, Miss Ross, as her instructor says at one point. She's blonde. She comes in. Oh, she has the worst accent I think I've ever heard. You hear her talk and you're expecting her to sound like she's, 20, and she sounds like she's late 30s heavy smoker.
Yes.
And you get the instructor saying, there isn't going to be a next time. And the woman's like, I promise there won't be. And you're like, you just set this girl up to get killed, right? So she appears, people are dancing. She's going to go upstairs. Fake ass Freddy Krueger. By the way, the plot of this movie is literally a killer dressed in a rubber Freddy Krueger mask terrorizes the city of Virginia Beach. That's the premise of this film. It's a shitty rubber not even a Freddy Krueger mask. It's like Rawhead Rex meets Freddy Krueger, and this glove that is super flimsy, like fleshy claws that can somehow punch through people.
I gotta say, my favorite part about the Freddy Krueger mask is the fact that you can see the color and style of the hair coming out of the back.
Yep. The claws can now cut throats at certain points. So we go up we're expecting something interesting. We get nudity right away, and I'm like, yep, this is totally this type of like an Italian horror.
In lieu of like being called a sexist or whatever, I will say the caliber of breast in this film were much higher than Nightmare Weekend.
Much higher. Much higher.
Just gonna say.
it was night and day. And then I realized you didn't hire this girl because she had a lovely voice. You hired her for a different reason. So she gets murdered right away by fake ass Freddy Krueger. Just basically you get these rubber claws, punches right through her. Like, you what? How did you just punch through this person? And as I said, what a bunch of times, that brings us to the director or choreographer who is having a meltdown.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't blame the choreographer with that dancing. I mean, was that what they really intended? Because it was aerobicizing / dancing, as so many 80s films are.
Yeah, the dancing was all over the place. I don't even know what the hell they're supposed to do. You cannot script how she had her meltdown. Words come out of her mouth that are not words.
Yeah.
She says she's going to go find Miss Ross, and that's who she's supposed to say she's going for. She forgets that line. You can see her forget that line. Trying to light this cigarette, and then she's like, Mrs. I'm going to go upstairs and get her from the... I don't know what to say. I can't right now because I'm so stressed. And you can see her not as her character, and they kept it in, I think, because the director thought it was great and just told her to keep going. So she goes upstairs to see the night killer caressing the dead body that he's just punched a hole through. This dude is like super strong, I guess. Mm-hmm. He must be some crazy creature or something like that. He's not.
Well, I think the mask gives him +5 to strength and dexterity, so he's doing all right.
That's an amazing mask. That is some, like, those are powers that's epic loot that he somehow was able to get there.
He was there for the drop. Yeah.
Now this death that we get is amazing in so many ways. This actually might be my favorite. This woman who played the choreographer, she is amazing in this movie. I don't know if she meant to be this stilted or terrible or whatever, but I love this performance because it is, you could not ask for something as amazing as this. She gets her throat slit, which you see in graphic detail. Immediately it disappears, and she is just holding her neck, and there's a little bit of like fake blood that you can see smeared on her hand, and her neck looks perfectly clean, like she Wolverine magically healed that shit.
Yeah, I kind of love that her acting is just so bad. There's no way it can't be genuine.
She can't speak because he's cut her vocal cords, but she's healed. So her healing factor's through the roof, yet she somehow healed on the outside, but those vocal cords cannot.
It's just a metaphor for trauma. You're always scarred on the inside.
Yeah. And well, oh God, she's trying to get down these stairs on this balcony for this theater. She's stumbling, and it's really terrible. And you can tell they're going for this epic type shot where you see people dancing below and you see her death from above, and she's trying to like yell out to them, and she can't speak. And then he punches through her, through her stomach, out of her back. She finally then is able to scream. I guess it repaired her vocal cords. And she does like a front flip over the balcony railing, and she's dead. And the reaction of the dancers is just so good.
They wanted to see if it was part of the choreography. Was that front flip intentional?
It's just like, what did she do? Oh, are we supposed to? Oh, it's so good. But apparently that opening was a reshoot. That was all. So Claudio Fragasso wasn't the only person to direct this movie.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. So he wanted it to be a tense psychological thriller with no gore. So he was focusing on the weird sex stuff.
Hmm.
The producers wanted more gore, so they hired Bruno Mattei, probably pronounced that wrong. That's okay, to film additional scenes. And then apparently they had issues over the title. So Claudio wanted it to be called Night Killer. That was his intention the entire time. And the producers wanted it to be called Do Not Open That Door 3. Do Not Open That Door in Italy is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
What?
Yep. So they basically are doing what a lot of films have done over the years, where they try to say that they're a sequel to something that they're not. It was like that whole Cemetery Man being called Demons 95, even though it has nothing to do with demons, right? What's dumb about this is Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 came out the exact same year. And it came out just like right after this, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But the producers in Italy had this called Do Not Open That Door 3.
So it's a non-canonical sequel, or I guess trequel. I don't know.
It's an unofficial an unofficial sequel to the series. Just
and
in
there's
title.
no chainsaws.
No, it's and you know the director and producers have even said the idea was Nightmare on Elm Street was really popular at the time too, so they figured let's do a Freddy character. Literally, this is how they're putting this shit together. They're doing that, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you know what else is popular? Texas Chainsaw. That's not all they do in this, and we'll get to that, because as I'm starting to piece this movie together, this is a symphony of bad ideas done perfectly terribly. It's like The Room. And when I thought Nightmare Weekend was, no, this is like The Room. This is the Room of horror films. This actually goes beyond Troll 2. Troll 2 has redeeming value in it as being very entertaining. There's something so wrong about this movie because it's an amalgamation of everything that they saw in the 1980s and said, yes, let's make that.
Yeah, it's a train wreck from start to finish. But at least at first, you can kind of laugh more than I feel like you can in the second part. Like, there are some great one-liners.
So we've gotten through that opening scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get to the outside of this house. That's originally what he had as the opening scene. The house is the first shot. Best part of this movie is that title card.
Remind me what it says?
Night Killer. It is the best thing in this movie. It looks great. It is a well-produced title card. It is the best part of this movie, hands down.
I'm so glad that it resonated so much with you.
I mean, honestly, like, when I look at quality, that's the only quality thing that was put into this movie, of genuine quality, is someone took the time to make that title card and go, you know what, I want this font to look cool. I kind of want it to have a 3D look to it. And I was like, you know what, that is quality. You did a good job instead of just type font how, let's say, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning did, where they're just like, this is all we got. It's terrible.
Well, to quote Rapey Dave, I'm glad it's quality, not quantity.
Yeah. Thank you. And then, you know, we get this guy coming to pick up this kid. And as they're walking through Ghent, by the way, they're walking through Ghent, Norfolk, and it's porno music that you're hearing. That is straight up porn music.
If you aren't local to this area, what you should know about Ghent is that it's basically the hipster historic area of Hampton Roads.
Well, now
it is.
Yeah. Now this was the house that this takes place at for the main character, who's Melanie Beck, played by Tara Buckman, who coincidentally happens to look pretty close to. She's basically a Linda Hamilton lookalike.
Yeah.
Especially when her hair gets very large later in the film. She is a Linda Hamilton in The Terminator lookalike. It is it gets really weird later, and I'm like, you're really ripping this film off. So, yeah, her house is in Ghent. It's right by the Hague Bridge. So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, oh, this is strange. Just said Virginia Beach, but I'm seeing Norfolk. And throughout the film, there's a lot of Norfolk in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So someone calls the house, and you hear this person in a bar with the weirdest voice.
It was. It really was.
How does he do? He's more like, it's really overly gravelly or something like this.
It's also sing-songy, I feel, and kind of high-pitched at the same time. So it's this weird amalgamation of ick.
He's like, what do you mean, Melanie? It's really
That's
bad.
pretty freaking close. That's pretty good.
This guy, I guess, is trying to sound super scary. It sounds like a joke. It's really bad dubbing that's thrown in there. But then all of a sudden she starts talking to herself, and she starts to feel herself up.
She does, with this sweater that I think is about 4 times too big for her.
Yeah, she just starts taking her clothes off, pretty much. Yep. She's feeling herself up. And then she starts talking to herself, being like, you're Melanie Beck. You're married, and you have this loving husband and a great daughter and a great family, and you're doing so. And it's like, it's everything you've ever wanted. So you're like, all right, this woman has a past, obviously, and now she's settled down. Okay. She's having a crisis of conscience.
And does she have to say this to herself every time, like, she gets up? Or is it just when she feels like she's going to cheat on her husband? She's like, remember, you've got all this stuff you could lose, Melanie. Keep it tight. Keep it closed, you know?
Well, that's exposition for anyone, because she just needs to tell the world, you know? But yeah, it's this whole movie is not really dialogue as much as it is exposition, the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that is said is just expository. It's to further the plot or to tell you the plot directly and nothing else.
But not smooth at all. It is so in your face, and it is so apparent.
Well, remember, we're also talking the director of Troll 2, who said to his cast in Troll 2, you're going to do the dialogue exactly as written. They weren't allowed to change it around. So you know it's going to be his dialogue, or, you know, the producer's coming in, and it's probably going to be in that same vein.
Yeah, it's like a varicose vein. It's not cute.
The lines, so we get to this dramatic moment, like she calls the cops, right? Because she's gotten this caller she's upset about, and right, is that where it's at? She calls the cops at this point?
Has he? Because I know at one point when she's on the phone with him, and I don't know if he calls back twice, but he's like, Melanie, you're so sexy. I'm going to fuck your brains out. And I just remember thinking that was so explicit and like atypical with movies like Scream and whatnot that it really caught me off guard.
She calls up the cops and says, well, he said, you can imagine. And I was like, what can we imagine?
Is she too proper to say it now?
She was being way too proper to say it, so she never says it to the cop, and this cop's terrible. The line delivery is just absolutely atrocious. He's like, I'll call you back in exactly 5 minutes. She goes into the other room. She's waiting for a second. There's a call, and she says, you said you were going to call back in 5 minutes. And this other voice on the side goes, I can't wait 5 minutes, Mrs. Beck. I'm too horny.
Sorry, it's just such a bad line. It's killing me.
Are you all right?
I'm fine.
Oh my gosh.
I forgot that he said that, and it just made me so happy.
It's so bad because I thought it was turning into like a Nightmare on Elm Street porno. The way he's in the shadow is very reminiscent of the first Nightmare on Elm Street, where you see Freddy in the shadow for the first time. This dialogue is pure gold.
It really is.
She grabs this gun. She shoots through the wall at this guy.
Albeit, this whole time, she's struggling to keep her top up. It is a war between the two of those.
Oh, yeah. She's pretty much given up on that, though. Mm-hmm. She's got this gun. She shoots through the wall. And then he appears because he's obviously just gone around to the other door. And she goes, "No, you're dead." And his follow-up line is, "I was pretending."
I have babysat a lot of kids in my day. I've been a nanny. I've worked in daycares, and I hear that from 4-year-olds all the time, arguing over, "I got you."
But that's the thing, is that I feel like there were scenes that they didn't do of she shoots and then she sees him on the ground not moving or something, but it straight up went to shoot through the wall. He appears. "No, you're dead. I was pretending."
And I think it's right after that when he enters the room and he's like, "I'm going to fuck your brains out," because that line just made me laugh.
Yeah, he is so graphic and it's just creepy. And then we cut to this cop, and all I wrote is, "This cop is the best actor, the best. And that probably means he was pretty bad. And they talk about the trauma, how she forgot everything, even her daughter.
Oh, yeah.
But this emergency plan that they had was madness. No, Detective Clark, he actually is the best. This dude throughout the movie is absolutely amazing. He's wearing the trench coat, like the Columbo trench coat. God. He looks like, there was an animated show in the late 80s, early 90s called Cops, but not like the one that was on Fox for years. But they had a guy called Big Boss, and he was like the leader or the commissioner or whatever. He's dressed like he's cosplaying Big Boss.
Maybe he was.
You might have been. And we have Dr. Willow, who, this guy does not understand patient-doctor confidentiality at all.
Oh, no. He's a total goss monster. Like, he can't keep a secret for his life.
Yeah, it's terrible. And they talk about right away, should we go with the emergency plan? No, that's madness. And then we see the dude from earlier who picked up the daughter, and he's got this Band-Aid on his face. Mm-hmm. And right away, I'm like, well, he's your bad guy.
Yeah.
And either it's a bad giveaway or dead giveaway or bad continuity. I mean, they do try kind of bring it up to cover it a little later of, he got me in the face, he stabbed me or slashed me, and now I'm never going to look the same. And his acting is something special. There's multiple actors in this film. They're all terrible in their own way. His is something to behold. And then Axel's, Axel's I think might be the worst.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Like his weird Southern, like, what do you mean? Thing.
I couldn't understand if he was supposed to have an accent or not.
I think it was his way of doing like a Virginia Southern accent. Like, I think that's what he thought it was supposed to be. It's terrible. By the way, the guy who plays Axel in this film, Peter Hooton, played Doctor Strange in the 1978 Doctor Strange TV movie.
Oh, wow. Okay, I gotta go back to the guy who had the scar that looks like an uglier version of Jefferson from Married with Children, because that's all I thought about the entire time.
Holy shit.
That guy. I knew it was him right off the bat because him and his wife are like, well, we're gonna take care of the child, and it's very obvious that they want to abduct and like have this child as their own. So before I ever saw the Band-Aid, I was like, yep, they want that child.
No, you're exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to basically take this child. Oh, she stays with us all the time. Oh, she's always with us. And then later on, you're seeing the wife, just be like, oh, Melanie's, she's terrible and she's a bitch and we want to take her daughter and she's our daughter. And then Sherman's like, yeah, she's not our daughter, by the way. You know that, right? She's like, no, she's our daughter.
That caught me off guard because I thought he was totally in with that. I thought he wanted her for his daughter as well. But then we found out that his motive is just lust.
Yeah, he's super rapey. He's a rapey killer guy.
A lot of rape in the movies we watch, Rob.
Apparently, and we're finding, so basically we're finding these movies that were on VHS for a while, right? And then just, you couldn't find them forever. There's a reason, probably. I think that might be it. She basically looks like discount Sarah Connor in the hospital. And this dude, as he's trying to talk to her, is like 6 inches from her face as this doctor, as he's like explaining stuff. And he's so close to her face. And it's like, dude, you need to learn that there's a bubble and she can understand you. You don't have to be that close. It is ridiculous.
Considering their theories on trauma, I'm not surprised that this was a technique he utilized.
Yeah. At some point, you know, she decides she's going to go out. Her kids are not going to, her daughter's not staying with her for a while. They keep fucking telling everyone about, like, all of this exposition is being told to the reporters. They are literally, this doctor tells the reporters everything. The neighbor, actually it's the neighbor guy and his wife at first. It's Sherman and his wife literally are telling the reporters all of these intense details about her life. They do not give a shit about privacy. And this is where it feels like the beginning of like a Greek chorus thing, where it's all exposition on her past or everything that's going on being told to the masses. And there's one reporter who always is asking questions, whether it's to one person, this couple, or to the doctor, or, you know, to one of the cops or whatever. It's so formulaic. So
do you think that was intentional or just a coincidence?
Oh, totally intentional. If Fragasso was as Clyde Anderson, he was credited in this film. It's great.
I love that they tried to like make his name sound more American.
Yeah, and then Rosella Drudy, who is his partner, and she's the one who wrote Troll 2 with him. Yeah, you can tell like why this script is so ugh. And it's they're trying to go with this whole psychological aspect of it. It's very much a psychological thriller, but I think they wanted to put in this Greek chorus thing. They wanted to put that in there to try and give it like a bigger feel than what it really is.
Those Romans always stealing everything the Greeks do. At it again.
I know. It's crazy, right? It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's just such an absurd scene, and we see this throughout the movie. Like this happens multiple times.
Yeah.
Then now this woman she's driving, she's going to be reckless or whatever. You see she's got a purse full of all sorts of crazy stuff. She's just going to go off and do something. And this guy in a Jeep, perfectly timed, just appears up next to her as they're driving near the Rudy Inlet. This is by Rudy Inlet because I'm looking through all the streets and everything that they're going through at this point. He's being super creepy towards her and saying all this dirty shit. And she just like doesn't want anything to do with him and like drives off into like this hotel area and parks and just goes in. And then she goes into the bathroom. Oh my God. The bathroom. Such a beautiful thing. When she goes into the bathroom and he follows her, and what does she come out with a gun? Is that what she comes out with? Oh, yeah, she does. Yeah. And she's like ready to throw down. She is not taking any shit, but she is not intimidating or believable at all, which makes it all the better. Yeah. She makes him strip and then flush his clothes down the toilet. And I love his reaction of, flush him? What do you mean, flush him? Like, she's like, do it. Okay. And he's wearing this basically banana hammock underwear. He was. So then she leaves, goes back into her car, and then he runs out of the bathroom, and this guy sees him, like the guy at the desk, and is like, what happened? And he says, I got molested in the little boy's room. Yes, he does. But he yells it as he's like leaving, and he's like walking backwards, and he does it with like so humorously. I'm like, is this a turn of phrase that he expects everyone to know? Is this a colloquialism that is supposed to be in Tidewater? Like, should I know this? Is that what you say when someone stole my clothes? Like, and puts them in the toilet. and puts them in the toilet.
And I love how she thinks that's going to stop him. I mean, obviously, this guy, as we can see him, is unhinged and a sexual deviant. And do you really think having his clothes in the toilet is going to stop him?
Apparently it doesn't, because he already has clothes that he is putting on the second he gets back into his Jeep. He has a full second set of clothes with him, like he knew. Does he have shoes? He didn't have time to put those on. But he is driving down the beach now, or driving down the ocean front looking for her, and she's gone to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And she's having a picnic, Kelly.
She is having a picnic. I think that's one of my favorite. That is my favorite moment, hands down, is that picnic scene.
Kelly, what's she having?
She is having all kinds of food. She's having a spread, but most importantly, she has just got a spread of pill bottles before her.
She
and
does.
Alcohol, if I remember correctly.
You got to wash that down somehow, right?
You gotta. You might as well live your life.
By the time he sees her and gets out of the car, all of those bottles are open. They are all tilted to the side, and there's maybe a handful of pills left from tons of bottles, and she is chugging booze to, like, down them. The brakes screech. She's taking the pills.
He's like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm committing suicide. What does it look like?"
You got to drink seawater. Her response, "Are you crazy?" And then the music during this moment, as he is throwing her in the ocean, forcing water down her throat, pouring this seawater. Basically, he's drowning her in the water.
Yeah.
Lifting her up, checking her, drowning her again, pulls her out of the water, drags her up on the beach, and she dry heaves. This scene, as she's puking and heaving up all these pills, goes on for, like, it felt like it went on for 5 minutes. It didn't.
It felt like it.
Oh, it felt like it.
And I feel like for this couple and all the fucked up shit that happens, I feel like this is foreplay for them. You're drowning her? Oh, yeah. It was just crazy to watch.
Oh, my God. Wait, what if all of this is how they normally were with each other?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised.
I see now it's less creepy. Okay. So, guys, if you didn't know, we're just going to go into this because you should have seen the movie already, because spoilers. This creepy dude who stalks her and kidnaps her throughout the movie.
Mr. Restroom Hustler.
Mr. Oh, yeah. Mr. Restroom Hustler, as she calls him. It is super creepy. It is her husband.
The whole time.
The entire time. He has kidnapped her. He has tied her up. He has sexually assaulted her.
Yep.
Repeatedly.
Tried to get her to commit suicide. Put a gun in her mouth.
You know what's weird? It's super sexual. And if you were to say that this is like the new 50 Shades of Grey film, like a low budget version, you would probably believe it. Because there's some weird, kinky Gerald's Game type. Did you guys really, is this all just a game? You know, it's not all a game with them, obviously. She did lose her memory, but it is one of those things that it feels like whoever wrote this, well, not whoever wrote this, we know who wrote this, Rosella Drudy and Claudio Fragasso. There's this weird sexual, like, rape fantasy that is just put throughout this movie. It is very creepy.
Isn't there a point when he's, like, dressing her up and, like, putting makeup on her like she's a doll?
Yeah, he dresses her up like she's a prostitute. Basically, he tries to dress her up like more and more like a cracked out Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
And you see it go throughout, and it's almost like this Bonnie and Clyde thing, where the whole purpose of this was to shock her into regaining her memory. None of this makes any sense, because as we're finding out, this night killer, who is just going around killing random people throughout this movie, every time we see the night killer kill people, he chokes them a little bit, and then he punches through them. But apparently, we find out from all the newscasters, before he killed them, he raped them repeatedly.
Oh, because they talk about finding the semen in her when they find her. And
Oh
yeah.
my. Oh yeah. Well, for the wife. Okay.
Yeah. They talk about that.
Holy shit. So when they find Melanie Beck, the doctors straight up are telling the reporters at one point that the psychological trauma was so bad and that there was so much semen in her. Like literally, it's almost parody because it's so bad.
It's like the most disturbing way you could explain it. Like, as a woman, I was just like, oh my God, that's disgusting. And I think right after they talk about how much semen was in her, then they flash to the daughter at her bedside. And I'm like, that is an awkward transition.
It's absolutely atrocious. And then the daughter tries to talk to her and says, "Mommy," but the girl's like, "What a lovely girl." And they're like, "Don't you recognize her?" No. Woman, did you not just hear the girl say, "Mommy"? Like, it's all just neglected, you know?
And I don't know how catatonic schizophrenia works at any point, but I'm very confident in saying neither do they. So...
Yeah, of course they don't. They have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah.
Then we get this bar scene where this monologue that this girl is giving is atrocious.
Oh, God, I forgot about her. The blonde with the super short dress.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
God, I blocked her out. I remember now.
I feel like this was also added in for like the gore type stuff. Anyway, he has her at the bar. They're talking. They go back to his place, and you see the mask there, and he puts the mask on, so we don't see his face, but we know it's the guy who called earlier because we know, you know. This girl's acting is awful. As she's telling this story, basically every time she stops for story and tries to do something else, he gets super pissed off, and he's like, "Finish the story. I want to hear the rest of the story." And it's like a Little Red Riding Hood thing that she's telling. And he's getting genuinely angry when she doesn't tell parts of the story. Like, he's slapping his legs, and he's like, "I want to hear the story."
It is very much like a little kid. I think one of my favorite things that she does, and please, I can't remember which parent it is, but she's like, "I'm going to show my mom," or "I'm going to show my dad," by like going back to his place with him. She's rebelling against some parental figure, and I found that incredibly amusing.
Yes. It was blatantly just said as a really terrible, terrible line. So what does this guy do? Well, he starts to choke her. And what does he do? He drowns her in plaster.
But before he does that, when he starts choking her, she's like, "I don't like this game anymore." Because when this begins, he puts on the Freddy mask. He's trying to seduce her while she's in the Freddy mask, and she's into it until he starts getting a little too rough.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Ooh, not really into it anymore." So he starts drowning her in this plaster, and then does it a few times, and then punches through her body. Why? Just because that seems to be the MO of this dude. He must be the Flash, because there's no way that he, as they always say during the news stuff, has raped this person before murdering them.
Yeah.
That is not... I don't understand. Like, the continuity of this is so absolutely ridiculous and absurd. But I think that's why you can't take any of this movie seriously, because it's just stupid. He dresses them up as fake-ass Freddy Kruegers and then has sex with them.
And she's covered in this, what is it called again? The plaster?
It's like plaster of Paris or whatever. You know, she's covered in this plaster stuff. And he puts the Freddy mask on and a weird like fleshy Freddy glove, and I guess that's when he has sex with him.
Yeah, no, he's definitely prepping.
Yeah, it's gross and weird and doesn't feel like it's part of this movie. And guess what? Probably wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, because it definitely seems very out of tune with everything else he did, because they never reference him doing anything like that again.
No, not like that. No.
Yeah.
I feel like they just added stuff in to be like, what can we do to make this really unsettling? Well, then we cut back to the hotel. Actually, you know what? This may be my favorite scene because the lines in this are great.
Yeah.
He walks in to the hotel room with a thing of fried chicken, and he says, fried chicken and French fries.
Oh my God, I forgot about some of his non sequiturs. Yeah, they're so random.
He falls onto the bed. He's eating it. He starts looking through some of the stuff that she has. And he says, Valium, syringe, a gun,
oh my goodness,
barbiturates, and then just throws the pills across the bed. And then he's eating the chicken and she has the gun and she says she's going to kill herself or whatever. And she's telling him to do it, or she tries to pull it on him or something. He's like, "Ooh, not again."
Well, but the way they play it is they're trying to make it like he's almost trying to help her.
Yeah.
By making her realize she wants to live. And I remember before the big reveal, my husband and I are watching it, me and Adam, and we're just like, is he supposed to be the love interest or the villain? We never really understood until the reveal what the fuck was going on there with that dynamic. Exactly.
Well, I think that's the problem. It's a tale of two films, right? And it wouldn't be good, either one of them by themselves. They're not really good together, but they're an interesting dichotomy. And I do love that line of, "You don't seem to get it, Mr. Restroom Hustler."
Yeah.
And so she wants to kill herself, but then he takes the gun, puts it into her mouth, and then pulls the trigger on that, but it's empty. And she's like, "What are you getting at?" When she was going to blow her brains out, he's eating chicken, and he's like, he's right up at her face like, "I love chicken." And he's eating this chicken all just like gross sexually. Yeah. As she's talking about blowing her brains out, and he's like getting off on this shit.
He is. And the fact that like he's eating this chicken and he's trying to get her to kill herself, and that's when she decides, "No, I want to live." Maybe she just wanted a piece of that chicken.
I mean, maybe that chicken was so good that she was like, "I smelled the chicken. It was right in front of my face. I want to live now. Just for the chicken." And then he says a thing that I think is a giveaway, a dead giveaway, is, "You're going to stay right here like a good little wifey."
Oh, I missed that. That's
and he's
so
like,
cool.
He says, "I'm going to go blow off some steam." So he disappears. Well, then she has a meltdown against the door. And it is amazing. It is so good. It is, you just have to watch it. Like, I don't care how much we're spoiling of this movie, and then you're like, "Well, you just spoiled the whole movie." I don't give a shit. Just go and watch this. Go find it. It's on Tubi TV. Go watch it right now. Just for these moments. It's just cinematic gold.
If you want to fast forward and just see some of the weird moments, you don't even have to watch the whole thing. Just watch some of these lines, watch some of these meltdowns, the suicide attempts. I know this sounds wrong, but those are the good parts.
Yeah, and we're not trying to make light of any of this stuff.
No,
like,
God, no.
These things in real life are serious things that are not funny. In this case, it's being done so horribly and treated in such a way that it's comical, and it wasn't meant to be. But there we are. And now we get to the aquarium scene, which takes place at the Virginia Beach Aquarium, which they call the Oceanographic Museum.
I just thought that was the most awkward thing they could have possibly called it. But I don't know if they wanted it to be a museum at first, because when we open up, we see this blonde and glasses and a lab coat. And I don't know about you, but I don't see museum workers wearing that ever.
Oh, I have.
Oh, damn. I'm just uncultured then.
No. It depends on what they're working on. So, like, in any of those ones that are like that, sometimes you might see people do it. I think they did it in this case to just... It tries to make you think it's something else almost. Yeah. But then when it's Oceanographic Museum, you're like, you just didn't want to call it an aquarium. Okay.
But you can see the exhibits clearly, shot for shot. Like, you can see the fish and the description right there.
That would also be in an Oceanographic Museum.
I guess because I've been there so many times, and I'm like, oh, I know that exhibit. It's just.
Yeah, no, that's what made this amazing. That's what made this whole thing. That's what made this movie great, is because, like, if you know the area, if you know Hampton Roads, you will see so many things in this movie that you're like, oh, I know that area. I know that area. They filmed this garbage there. Oh, man.
Yeah, or it's like on the tip of your brain. It's like you know where it is, but you can't quite get it, and it's maddening. Like when you said The Hague, I was so relieved. I'm like, that's where it is.
Yeah. I mean, as I'm watching this and I'm watching her go around at certain places in it, there's a couple of streets by Rudy Inlet when they're driving around by the beach and he takes her into the hotel and everything. Like, it starts by the Rudy Inlet and then it ends at 33rd Street when they're actually at this place that makes it seem like they just walked down the street and we're there. And then they make it seem like the oceanfront is also Ghent. Because they really make it seem like she's just been hanging out just right down the street the entire time at this hotel when her house is, you know, a block or two over or something.
But if you know Virginia Beach at all, you know that around the oceanfront, there are no brick homes unless you go blocks and blocks away. So it's just really funny if you're a local and you're like, no. Well,
and then at a certain point, you just see the sign that says Granby Street. And I'm like, all right, well, yeah, guys, there we go. We get to this scientist at the museum.
Yes.
She's walking around, and then boom, she's dead.
Well, she at least gets a chase scene, though.
She gets a minor chase scene. She gets chased through there.
It was a beautiful chase scene, though. There were so many aquatic creatures in the background, you know, just bubbling and being majestic while she's getting hunted down for her life. And I don't know. I found myself more interested in the fish than in her acting.
I will say yes. The scene aesthetically had some cool stuff going on with it. She's checking some weird water pump valve thing that I think is part of an exhibit.
Yeah, that's still there. I recognize that thing. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's still there.
But she's trying to act like it takes care of something majorly.
like it's something scientific, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so bullshit, and it's such a great moment. But you don't even get to meet this person or know who she is. She's there to be killed, and it's just another death. It's just bad, man.
I honestly think she's dressed up the way she is to like fulfill the hot scientist lady quota.
Yeah,
because that's definitely how she's presented.
Yeah.
And I do believe we see her breast at some point.
Oh, yeah, I think so. He probably
does
something like that, too. It's so weird. And then we get to...
go to where she is and ask questions, and we meet that weird landlord, who I definitely want to discuss.
Yeah, so they're staying at this hotel on 33rd Street. That's the idea, is he takes her down to that. And then there's this guy, like, she fires a gun off when he comes back in. I think she wrote on the wall, like, I kill you, kill me, or something. It was very weird.
Yeah,
I don't know. Weird. She's having, like, a meltdown. She's all dressed up. She's been decked herself out to look like Discount Sarah Connor hardcore style, like chase scene during the Terminator. We get her firing a gun off, this dude just showing up, and him just putting $1 in his glasses or whatever, and is like, go away.
I do like that the husband, Etzel or whatever the hell his name is talking to the landlord like he's been living there for months. He's like, oh, are you and your girlfriend having a nice stay? You
kind of get this little backstory thing, but there's not, because the second he finds out that he's wanted, he calls the cops right away and is like, am I getting a reward?
But he could be a character out of the Revenge of the Nerds series. Like in a heartbeat, just the way they do that over-the-top representation of glasses and voice is kind of like this, but not that apparent, you know?
Yeah. So
are they trying to make everybody else cooler by comparison? Like, why else would they make him that way?
It's a stereotype. Why would you not? If you're Italian directors coming over, what's an American stereotype? The nerdy, weak-willed hotel owner who isn't going to stand up to someone. He got paid off by $1, and he seemed like that was a good amount of money to him. Well, in 1990, $1 was still worth jack shit, so I don't know. I don't know, but to him, it was something. It was something important. We go to the museum. Cops are there. They're talking about stuff. And these extras there, by the way, are just smiling and breaking constantly. All the extras in this movie, because they know this movie's bullshit.
Yeah.
They're all trying to do their interviews. You have the one woman who you keep hearing over and over asking 100 questions. Everyone else is just murmuring. And I'm like, yep, we get it. You literally are just trying to get us to do the Greek chorus. Tell us more, though. Doctor, come out here and explain too much.
Is this the scene? Because you told me in one of the scenes, in the crowd scenes, there is an FM 99 van, which is a local radio station that's still going to this day.
Yeah, there's an FM 99 van at the end of the movie when they're doing another cop scene. You see the FM 99 van. I think you even see it earlier when they're going through in this, but it's right by her house at The Hague when they're filming.
Man, it's nice to know that the rock station of Hampton Roads is there and they're into this.
This is when we get back to the hotel, when she fires the gun. He has his booze that he drops. The clerk shows up. He bribes him off with $1. And we hit total Stockholm syndrome moment. Oh
yeah. There's a point where she even says, he's like, what am I going to do? And she's like, you're going to kill me.
Mm-hmm. Because when you know the movie and you know what's going on, you're like, Oh, it's like, do you remember? Yeah, I remember. How much do you remember? And it's like, okay. And then you start wondering, why is this guy drinking so much by himself? And he seems so relieved to get a drink inside of the stairwell. If you really analyze the film and try and break it down, the actors were probably doing it as like, yeah, this is what you would do because you're so stressed out over what's happening that you have to put your wife through this, even though you don't want to.
Yeah.
So you're hoping she'll just remember so it'll all be over.
And if he's drunk, it kind of explains some of his line deliveries throughout the movie. What if he's having a mental break as well? And he's like, someone was molesting me in the bathroom.
I mean, it might be. We never even meet the husband until really we find out that it's him at the end of the movie. But you never see him at any other time in the film.
And even after the reveal, he still seems psychotic because he's got those crazy eyes and you're just waiting.
It's the crazy eyes mixed with the voice. The voice is too... Yeah. The voice feels forced, overly forced, which emphasizes the crazy eyes. But I feel like there's so much that's wrong with this because their dynamic that they're having in this movie feels very like Kyle Reese, Sarah Connor, but rapey.
Yeah. There's definitely vibes. And that's why I was so confused when he was first introduced. I'm like, is he the love interest? Is this their meet cute when she flushes his clothes down the toilet?
Right. You know? And that's where it's not really making sense. But I'm seeing that what they're doing is just pulling random shit from the movie. They're just pulling random shit and putting it in the film, like from other movies. We know that she's hit Stockholm syndrome at this point. Mm-hmm. She basically is staring off into nothingness and... You know, when she's like, yeah, you're the one who's going to kill me, he gets disappointed. You can visibly see in his face, like, once you know the reveal, it's like, oh, shit, okay. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make this movie any better, but at least it gives it a little more layers to it, which I always appreciate in trash horror. The hotel owner at this point sees in the paper that this dude, that this woman, Melanie Beck, has been abducted. That picture is amazing. She literally looks like a lioness with her hair just everywhere in that drawing.
It is late 80s, early 90s, hairspray glory. It is a thing to behold.
It's like Tina Turner would be jealous of that hair.
Oh my God. My aunt used to do that in the early 90s. She would be in the bathroom 4 hours with all the hairspray and her hair was so stiff. You would have think she'd been fluffed in a porno. Like, it was ridiculous.
Oh my God. So this guy finally calls the cops. And by the way, I have to say that the cop extra in this car who gets the call is the best actor in the film. And that's not a joke. This is not me being sarcastic this time. Because it's like they said to him, hey, man, what would you normally say in this type of situation? Mm-hmm. And they just filmed him doing his normal job. And it was perfect. I'm like, dude, you get the Oscar for this film. Basically, they go down to 35th Street near the old Howard Johnson's because you can see the old Howard Johnson's hotel down there. And The guy, as I said, he looks like Big Boss. The other cop who we meet earlier comes out looking like Big Boss from the animated show Cops. He goes in, threatens this the owner, and because the owner's like, I heard there was a reward, and he's like, do you want to get? He's like, you better get the hell out of here before I beat your ass, or some crazy shit like that.
Yes,
and the
I
guy's
love
like,
that he's bullying him. Like, it totally fits that nerd motif, and I just thought it was hilarious.
It was amazing. So Urkel Cop, because then I also realized with the glasses, he's kind of Urkel. So Urkel Cop decides that at this point he knows where the room is. You know what Urkel Cop's got to do? Take off his glasses in order to take out his gun. These aren't reading glasses. He's wearing these all the time, right?
Yeah.
He has to take off his glasses to get his gun, and you can see he's having trouble seeing. He's kind of squints a little bit, and I'm like, oh no, dude, don't do that.
It's the only way he can shoot people, Rob. He just feels so guilty. If he sees it clearly, his vision of himself will be destroyed.
Whew. I guess.
I don't know. I'm just being silly.
Oh, I agree with you on that, though. I think you're right. Like, this guy, it's just like, I would love to be there for the direction of, all right, so I need you to take your gun out. Okay, cool. What the hell are you doing? I just took the gun out. Well, take your glasses off, man. But give them an Italian accent.
Take your glasses off.
Not a stereotype, and not like a Super Mario like Super Show.
That's the only
Captain Lou Albano trying to do his like.
It's the only one I can do.
Kelly, that's great. It's so good. Now he goes in there, they're gone, but guess what? They're not gone, and they get the upper hand. They run off. This guy's been duped. Sherman, the Scarface dude, is about to go out now. We cut to his place. He's about to go out, and he has a gun with him. Annie is losing her shit. Annie is his wife.
Is Annie the wife or the daughter?
Annie is the wife. Clarissa is Melanie Beck's daughter.
Okay, cool.
So Annie's losing her shit. At one point, this line is fantastic, when he says, Annie, take it from me. The police are groping in the dark. And then if the guy comes after him, because he's the only one who's seen the killer, he says, he's going to plug him one. Right between the eyes. There's that pause. And then Annie is insane, and she starts talking about how Clarissa's like their daughter now. And
Clarissa overhears this, though.
So Annie's like, no, it'll all be okay. It'll all be okay. Like when she comes out to see them after they're having this intense fight, she's wearing this sweater that has these two little bears that are hugging on it that says "Squeezings, greetings." And then once you see her line when the woman's like, I'm your mommy, I'm here. She just looks at her and goes, you're not my mommy. Yep.
Oh God, I just got to flash forward to what she does at the end of the movie, but we'll get there. I had almost forgotten about that.
We will totally get there. And then
yeah,
I have a moment on here. All I wrote was, wait, she just looked at the camera, WTF.
Annie, if I remember correctly, does look directly into the camera at one point.
And they kept it in.
They did.
Oh, yeah, and then the call to the department scene is like, I guess, Bonnie and Clyde are having their little outing, which is, Melanie and Axel. And he calls the department, and it's such a strange scene because she has all these times she could have run away, all these times that she could have gotten out of there. He's talking to the police department now and having this weird conversation with them, saying, when we realize something's going on. And then she runs into Sherman, and she gets into Sherman's car, and Sherman takes her away. And I just love how he just runs out there, and he's just like, fuck.
Well, when you think about it, maybe he just realized that his wife is driving off with a real killer, and he's like, oh, I fucked up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
that get so violent with each other. The detective, the big boss detective dude, and Axel, like the way that they're yelling at each other and all the shit that they're saying to each other. And it's like, he's like, if you don't bring her back, I'm going to make you fucking wish you were never born. And you see this other cop who's an extra just sitting there like, you've made me very uncomfortable. But it's so good and very strange. And the doctor is there too, listening to all this because he has to then tell everyone because that's his job. But now we're running down Granby Street where Sherman grabs Melanie is outside of the Wells Theater. You see the Wells Theater just sitting there. It's basically that scene is an advertisement for the Wells.
Mm-hmm. It was really cool seeing Granby Street, like, at that time period. Just how different it looked. Oh,
absolutely. They hold on to that for so long. And then what do? We cut right back to the Hague, like right by the bridge. Her address, I don't know what the exact street is, but it's 548. The building is 548. It's in that round near the Hague Bridge. And we cut back, we see Sherman, we see that fucking terrible pasted on scar.
Ugh.
It is absolutely atrocious. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go. And the second that door closes, her clothes kind of start coming off, as one does.
That's kind of a thing her character does, though.
Yeah. I mean, she just gets naked any chance she gets to. I guess this is meant to be like an erotic thriller. It's not.
But Sherman does say something. I want to rewind just a bit. When he was in the house with Annie and the daughter, he says, I've got to go save her. I'm the only one who's seen his face. Yeah. When Gossipy Scientist said that, Melanie was the only one who had seen his face. So I was like, well, there's your proof.
It gets brought up and you're just like, there's only so many people in this movie. Who else is it going to be unless they're like, here's a random guy.
And his hair just happens to match perfectly the hair sticking out of the back of the mask.
Yep. She looks out and she sees Sherman. Well, she sees Sherman walk over to the phone out there. And then she hears the phone ring, which that ringtone, there's two lines in the house, but the ringtone doesn't even sound like a real ringtone. Mm-hmm. It's like this. And so, shocker, it's Sherman. And she's like locked the door. And then she has this key. She holds this key first. And it looks like she's holding this key so tight that the first thing that popped in my head is, I'll use the key as a weapon.
And that makes too much sense.
I'm just thinking to myself, okay, this isn't Kingdom Hearts, and that's not a fucking Keyblade. That ain't gonna work. And then she's like, no, I'll lock the door and just leave it in the door. A glass door. Luckily that never comes into play. Like, she could have just punched through, turned key the other way, open door.
I mean, but he can punch through anything, even people, so she's not safe.
He just could have punched the door right off the hinges with that magical gauntlet he has, apparently. It's not rubber, guys, and it's not a fake Freddy glove. It must be a magical gauntlet of power.
Yes. When you say gauntlet, all I can think is Red Sorceress needs food badly. Like, that's immediately where my mind goes.
Well, now she remembers.
Mm-hmm.
She remembers everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote on here, Sherman is such a terrible fucking actor. I mean, really bad. And then we get a flashback scene. And I'll say this. Melanie Beck is never scared in any terrible situation that she is put in.
Mm-hmm.
When she is being physically abused by Axel and apparently sexually abused, she is unfazed. Unfazed. She's not upset. She's not crying. Nothing. She's not trying to get out of the situation. And the same fucking thing happens in this flashback. She is not the least bit scared. She doesn't seem like she is at all.
She's like Mrs. Clingstone from Nightmare Weekend.
Yeah. And he's basically trying to get her, like, so we get this flashback. We basically find out how he gets that scar. He is trying to get her to kill herself, and he's going to untie her to get her to kill herself. And he's being so over the top and so over dramatic, and she's just sitting there and just listening. And then he's like, do it. Do it. And then she stabs him in the face. And his line is, well, that was stupid of me. Yeah, dude, it was. It really fucking was. And this is when I texted you when I was watching this. You know, at the end of Terminator, you have the T-800 stalking her through the metalworks, right? And she's going after, it's going after her, it's going after Kyle Reese. Mm-hmm. In this case, Discount Sarah Connor is the T-800 coming after Sherman. The way she moves down those stairs, the way she's holding stuff as she's coming after him, it's almost identical. It looks very much like, hey, what if Sarah Connor was the Terminator? We cut back. He's still talking and giving all these lines about all this crazy shit. And it's like, you tried to kill me, but you didn't succeed.
And he's going on about how she's such a tease and how long he's wanted her.
It doesn't even make sense with the other killings that have been going on. You know what I mean? Like, this almost seems very isolated, which I guess, you know, as we can tell, is a product of two directors. The line delivery at the end, and there's so much bad line delivery of, goodbye, Melanie, back. He mega blinks during Melanie Beck. And then she's like, oh, no, I'm totally into this. You just should have told me. Yeah, we could totally do this. And he's like, wait, really? And this cheap-ass seduction technique works on him. It totally works. And then she takes a knife. Kelly?
I don't remember that well.
She stabs him in the dick. She stabs him in the dick.
Oh, God.
Stabs him in the dick.
She does stab him in the dick. Oh, he deserved it, though.
100% that motherfucker deserved it. It's a long blade, too, and she gets him right in the balls, probably up through... You don't see it in close-up, but I like to imagine that she totally just shish kebab the shit out of him.
Yeah.
He is still holding the gun and holding his crotch, and just blood is pouring from it. And he's just like... Ugh! Axel appears... But it's not Axel, it's a stuntman. And he jumps through the door. He doesn't jump through, like, the center of the door, which is also glass. He's going through the very top of the door. He's like, I have to make sure that my jump launches me 3 feet off the ground so I can have enough time to go through this glass and then do a tuck and roll so I don't hurt myself at all. Then his hair changes when we cut to a different shot and we realize the stuntman's gone. And it's Axel with a gun. And he shoots Sherman a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Like he is making sure he is down for the count.
Like a lot. Sherman is Swiss cheese at this point. Like he is done.
Good.
This is where I saw the FM99 van outside of the house. Because that's when the press appears again. And this is where I realized, like, it had to have been this whole Greek chorus thing that they've been trying to do the whole time. Because you get more explanation to the press, and it's literally giving everything away. Yeah, Kelly, why don't you explain what their methodology was?
Their methodology? Do you mean, like, when they broke it down as to what happened? Like how the husband was going in to pretend to kidnap her and traumatize her to reset her schizophrenic catatonia, because that was the only way you could get her to remember, was to jumpstart her with rape and trauma, which is obviously very scientific in nature and not horribly misogynistic at all.
They also said it was madness because it was an emergency plan, and it is straight up madness.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, they were legit right on that. Yes, that plan is straight madness. Do not do it. They tell the husband not to do it. Like, the plan was don't do it. And the husband goes, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway.
He loves her so much. He is willing to be a restroom hustler. Like, no qualms about it. He's down. The fact that they think that's what love is so disturbing on so many levels.
He explains it to her at the end, yet she seems totally cool with it.
She praises him for it. She's like so happy. Like he's her hero for doing this for her.
Is this like something they would normally do in their relationship, like some sort of fantasy stuff?
Yeah, like a role play. Yeah.
Extreme role play or something, you know?
And I know this is a weird feeling, but even when he had like abducted her and he was supposed to be meeting for the first time, I'm like, why does this feel like this is familiar to them?
Yeah.
Like it felt like it had happened before, like by rote kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she just goes along with stuff very easily. It's following the beats that are laid out in the script and adhering to these rules that there are no real rules. And then we get this fucking ending.
Oh my God, fucking Clarissa.
By the way, no one's fucking Clarissa. let's put that out there.
I wouldn't be surprised.
This movie is wrong, but it's not hitting on that level, no. Because even in this, we never see anything really. We see more sex. We see more sex during the pinball scene in Nightmare Weekend than we do in this.
You know, one thing I will say for this film is there is no back kissing, and I gotta say that's a relief.
It's all about, punching through people, not assimilating them.
So when we see the family together, they're all giggling and snuggling in bed, being all wholesome. Like wake up on Saturday morning, and Clarissa gets a package.
She gets a present because apparently it's Christmas. We get this long speech. The speech keeps going back and forth between Axel and Melanie, and he's like, "I'm so sorry, all this stuff." And I'm like, "Dude, stop acting. Your acting is bad. Just be husband self." And then I'm like, "Oh, no, this is just a character choice." Fuck. And
no, killer him and husband him are the same. The acting doesn't.
Exactly, and that's what makes this really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So they keep talking, and then he has this moment of, "But what effect could this have on Clarissa?" She's gotten this package. We see the paper wrapping go everywhere. We get this swell of shitty music.
Mm-hmm.
And she pops up into frame of the mirror wearing the mask. And she says,
"Hey, Melanie Beck, I'm coming after you. You thought I was gone, but I'm back."
Like they're setting it up for a sequel or something.
That's never gonna happen.
Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, and she's staring at the camera when she says all this stuff at the end. And I'm like, no. Now you're telling me that this movie is about a possessed mask?
Wait, is that what it's implying? I just thought that the trauma, that's how it had affected her. You think it's possessed?
She got a present that was a mask. Who the hell would send her the fake Freddy mask unless it was the wife who is now has been doing something to like mess with the girl? But I feel like they went with this supernatural vibe of we need to throw in this shock ending for sequel bait. And I think they had no idea what the hell they obviously had no idea what the hell they were doing.
Yeah, and the mask would have been on his dead body. So who got it?
His wife.
Mm.
I mean, remember, she was, as we saw, Annie was not okay. She's not okay. She's not okay, Annie.
Yeah. Annie's got a gun.
Yeah, actually, she probably would for the sequel. It's just, what the hell was this?
I don't know. Like, it started off with such promise. I don't know about you, but I was excited at first because I thought it was going to be like the same good, bad dichotomy that so many of those classic horror films have, like Nightmare Weekend. But then it just got worse and worse, and not in a good way.
You know what? They tried to go psychological, and they failed miserably. But in their failure, there's a lot of layers to try and pick apart what their intentions were. So,
yeah.
Having seen like the documentary Best Worst movie, Patrol 2,
mm-hmm.
I can understand potentially what they were going for with their idea of psychological trauma and this weird erotic thriller that they were doing. But then all of a sudden you're seeing like, this is pure trash. This is like, this is basically in the way Nightmare Weekend was made by people who did softcore porn and just porn in general. This, it almost feels like they were going for like a thriller version of Red Shoe Diaries with this.
Well, and I don't even think it's the scenes or like the writing or the dialogue that really got to me the second half. I guess what got to me, like, especially being, like a woman, is just, that rape could reset trauma and kind of almost making light of it. And then also just the sheer misogyny that overwhelmed the second act. I guess maybe it just got to me more on a personal level, and it just made it a lot harder for me to not view it as extra cringy. But I mean, the funny parts were still funny, but that just, I think, really got to me.
It is extremely cringy. It's kind of like in Nightmare Weekend where, we said on that, this is a movie that you have to see on how you could put together a really terrible movie, especially with editing.
Yeah.
Here's how you make a really bad movie on concept. Nightmare Weekend is a great concept, poorly executed.
Mm-hmm.
This is an awful concept. This is an absolutely terrible concept for a movie that should not be done. It is terrible in every way, but it's done in such a terrible way and so over the top that it's just like, you can't look away.
I don't know. Like, for me, I don't think I'll watch it again. Like, don't get me wrong. There are some great lines in there, and there is some really awful shit that I kind of love, but I don't know. I think just the concept that you were talking about, I think it got to me so much that I don't know if I want to do it again.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't something I would want to go out of my... There are clips that I would watch again that are great.
Oh my God, yeah.
Clips of this movie are fantastic. This movie as a whole, watching it, if you don't know what's going on, it's super wrong and super rapey. If you know what's going on,
yeah,
it now has taken it to a whole nother level of psychological trauma.
Like, if you take that suicide picnic, because that's what I'm going to call it, the suicide picnic scene, and you isolate that without any context, and you just watch it on repeat, that's gold.
There's like, you could do a compilation that's probably about 10 minutes long of this movie that could pretty much give you everything you need from it. I still think some of the lines that are given by the Night Killer, as awful as they are and disgustingly cringy, are great. Because
they need to be included.
Yeah, they would need to be included because they're absolutely terrible, and it's a whole new level of just like, really, dude? Like, really? Like, why?
Yeah. Like, no, it was like so many individual elements were hilarious, but I think by the second half, when they came together for me, I was just like, oh, very Lucille Ball being displeased moment.
Oh yeah, no, there was a lot of stuff where it was just like, this is not cool.
Yeah.
The Greek chorus stuff, I just couldn't. That to me was the biggest invasion of any privacy of everything, and at that point, when you see doctors and cops on the news just divulging the most private information that in terms that no one would ever use, it sums up this movie.
One thing I was pleased to see is that at one point, one of the cops was in fact eating a donut. So I was glad to see that stereotype still alive and well.
Well, good. At least something in this film was realistic. Because the rest of it was just an amazing clusterfuck. That being said, would I recommend this movie?
Oh, that's a loaded question, because there are components of this movie that are great, that I really like, but I don't know.
I recommend clips of this movie. I mean, we even said it. This movie would be great in clips, maybe 10 minutes total.
Yeah. You can start with the choreographer's meltdown, I feel like.
Yeah. Actually, if we took out about 5 minutes of this film, and it would be one of the funniest things ever made.
Yeah, it's that context that those minutes put it in that make it really gross.
Then we take that context out.
Yeah.
We'd have to go in there and edit it ourselves. You know what? Maybe there will be Night Killer, the horror edit.
If you get bored enough during the quarantine, do it.
I mean, I might. It could happen. Anything can happen, such as this movie existing.
Oh, God, so bad. But I will admit, like, this is so cheesy, but whenever I saw a landmark from Virginia Beach, or when they said Virginia Beach, I would just giggle because nobody ever talks about this trash town, so it made me happy.
Yeah, it's I will say, like, that is the one thing too, is like, if you're gonna watch this movie, you'll see some cool landmarks, you'll see some local stuff if you're from the area. If you're cool with movies getting ultimate cringe, then watch it. Like, cool. You'll probably be entertained in a very horrible way because this movie. Like, if you
like exploitation films, or I mean, maybe not like them, but have a tolerance for them, like, you'll be fine.
Yeah, you're right. It is, and it's an exploitation film, totally.
Yeah.
Overall, though, it's a movie. It exists. It's from the director of Troll 2, and now I understand why it's not as big of a cult classic as Troll 2.
Yeah. If it had gone in the vein of the first half, I think it could have been. But I think it's just that second half and that context just killed that.
That was the whole plot twist thing. Yeah, essentially, the plot of the movie killed the movie.
Yeah, that was the real Night Killer, was the plot.
Oh my God, it was.
Yeah.
Wow. Kelly, that just blew my mind.
You're welcome.
I think that sums it up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly, for being on again and watching another questionable film. I would say Nightmare Weekend was much better as far as just like great concepts and stuff. This,
I mean, there were some great quotes out of it, like the restroom hustler one, and what is the one about the bathroom and the molestation? That was a good one.
I got molested in the little boy's room.
Oh, yeah, and I'm trying to commit suicide. What does it look like?
Yeah.
You know, like, those are gems.
Fried chicken and French fries.
Only said like that, yeah.
Yeah, that in itself sells this film. Quite frankly, that should have been the tagline. Fried chicken and French fries, followed by Valium syringe, a gun, and barbiturates.
I mean, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, that'd be a great tagline.
Yeah, well, if I do that re-edit, that's the new tagline.
That would be beautiful.
Oh, man. I don't know if I could actually sit through in an editing room with this movie for that.
Yeah, I don't know either. But thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Next time I watch a film, I will take notes. I felt so bad leaving you hanging. I'm like, I don't remember.
No, that's totally fine. Even through my notes, I'm like, I don't remember all of this movie because it is such a train wreck.
You know sometimes how you fall asleep during bad movies and it's like a self-defense mechanism?
Yeah.
I feel like I forgot a lot of this as a self-defense mechanism.
Honestly, I don't blame you. There's a lot of this film that I remember it. I have fond memories because I'm only remembering the good stuff. Yeah. And I am pushing out all the terrible stuff that's in this movie, and I am glossing over a lot of it because I'm like, well, I just remember these funny lines.
Yeah, no, that's what you should take away. Like, the funny thing is, it reminded me of Sucker Punch. I'm going to tell you why. Is because when I was so excited for Sucker Punch. Like, I was there opening night. Like, I was so excited to see it because of the visualizations and Zack Snyder and everything. But I ended up leaving feeling like I was going to be raped because they never really empowered those women. Not really. And it left me feeling like really uncomfortable when I left the theater. And apparently there was supposed to be a scene where Rocket had consensual sex with the guard. And if they had left that in there, that would have been great as a woman to see, like, seeing some empowerment. But as it stood, like, every time I watch that movie, and there are so many things I like about it, I always leave feeling uneasy. And that's what this movie made me feel, was that sense of unease.
You know, it's weird. I never finished Sucker Punch.
What, really?
I own the director's cut because they had it on sale and I'd never seen it and I bought it. And then as I'm watching it and being like, oh, that's what this movie is? No, I'm good. I'm out. Like,
you want to see Poe be creepy?
No, I really don't. Like, once I saw how he was being in this and I'm like, and I know where the movie was going.
Yeah.
I know the ending of it ahead of time. So I was like, no.
Oh my God. That's like a bad exploitation film in some ways as well. God damn it. I love the soundtrack though. That soundtrack.
Soundtrack's great. Amazing. But they tried to go with like the Brazil ending. Except the Brazil ending done in an exploitation film type way. That's not how you want to do a film like that, and you don't want it to be like, well, they won in their mind. No, you just no.
Yeah, like the visualizations for that when she would go into the fantasy world were stunning, amazing.
Sure, but like I was hoping when I saw the trailer that was going to be the fucking movie and not just in someone's mind. I was like, give me some weird fantasy realm tearing shit where they're going through like different realms and different dimensional planes in order to get back to where they need to go. I'm entertained then.
Yeah, I don't want to watch a movie about women trying to escape a brothel. Like, that's not for me.
No. I mean, it's just like, once I realized what that was, I'm like, you made the wrong movie. And Zack Snyder, dude, you wrote this and you drew. Don't.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Yeah, and it's just weird because this movie reminded me of Sucker Punch in that vein.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's just like this movie, when you get to what the plot really is, it destroys itself based on its plot.
It does.
Yeah, well, that's Night Killer, everyone. A little classic that came out the exact year as Troll 2, and obviously was overshadowed by Troll 2, which apparently is the better film. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that'll do it for us this week on Oh the Horror. Kelly, thanks again for being on and doing this. We're gonna bring you on again for another episode that's way better than Night Killer. We're gonna find a movie that is like not this.
Hooray!
So with our powers combined, we're gonna figure that out, and soon there'll be another episode. And until next time,
fried chicken.
Fried chicken and French fries.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Now, it is time to keep your appointment with the Wicker Man.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead